Lakers are champions again. They wrap it up in sweep by beating the Nets. San Antonio Spurs champions.
Gap between the conferences was widening, fueled by the very talent the East had generously surrendered. In 2004, the Detroit Pistons bullied the Lakers super team to win the championship, the first East champion in 5 years. But looking closer, the West still had the better winning percentage. In fact, the gap reached an all-time high. The Boston Celtics had made it to the playoffs with 36 wins. Their Western counterpart would be the 37-win Warriors. But the key difference here is that the Celtics were the 8th seed heading into the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Warriors were only the 12th seed. If you dropped the Celtics into the West, they'd fall down to 13th. The West was winning 63% of games while the East was stuck at a measly 37. Despite the East having stars like LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Dwight Howard, to reduce the disparity. Even after the Celtics formed a super team, they only ended up with one championship. The West owned all the generational talent that the East foolishly gave away. The mistakes of the late 90s haunted them. The gap would keep widening until 2009. For the first time since 1999, the East briefly edged out the West in total wins, securing 51%. Surprisingly, the East had 2 teams win 60 games, while the West had only 1. But the Phoenix Suns finished 9th in the West with 46 wins. Yet that same record would have placed them 5th in the East, proving once again that the West was still the better conference. In 2011, the Indiana Pacers drafted Kawhi Leonard and instantly traded him away to the San Antonio Spurs. Kawhi would go on to win 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, the Finals MVP, and the championship in 2014. Speaking of 2014, that season revealed just how broken the East was. The West had a 64% winning record, while the East crawled to 36%. The conference disparity reached one of its highest points, but that still doesn't tell us how vast the gap had become. To put it in perspective, the 3rd-seeded Raptors won 48 games in the East, yet that same record wouldn't have even qualified for the playoffs in the West. It was a total bloodbath. In 2015, the East had only 3 players on All-NBA teams, but the West, they had 12 players. The 9th-seeded Oklahoma City Thunder won 45 games, similar to the Washington Wizards, who won 46, but the Wizards were the 5th seed. Surprisingly, this weakness actually benefited the East in a diluted conference. Signing floor-raising players could land you a playoff spot, a strategy that would never work in the ultra-competitive West. By this point, the system felt fundamentally unfair to Western franchises. Executives from the West began actively campaigning to eliminate conference seeding.
So what some of the Western executives are saying is, let's just get rid of the conferences and see what happens. 16 teams in the playoffs have a balanced schedule. Forget about this imbalance, which frankly has existed for decades. The West has dominated the East for decades.
But there was a catch. 23 of the league's 30 teams had to approve the change. Eastern Conference teams, enjoying their easier road, weren't about to vote themselves out of the Players like Jimmy Butler, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony were all traded to the West, further diluting the Eastern Conference. The disparity very much existed. Then 2022 brought genuine hope as the East edged out the West in head-to-head conference wins. The ninth-seeded Hawks in 2022 would remain the ninth seed if you dropped them in the West. Even All-NBA selections started evening out between the two conferences. Balance looked possible for the first time in over 2 decades. However, this wasn't a complete reversal. Golden State won the championship in 2022, and Denver took it. Both West teams. But in 2024-25, the West resumed its dominance. Some of this comes down to luck. Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, and Tim Duncan all happened to land in the West as rookies, and they were involved in 14 of the West's recent 17 titles. But there's a reason the West keeps winning. A tougher conference pushes teams to get better. Look at the Rockets and Bulls. Houston was a 17-win team in 2021, finishing last in the West, and the Bulls were a 31-win team, finishing as the 11th seed. But in the tougher West, Houston committed to a full rebuild and emerged as a 52-win playoff team by 2025. Meanwhile, the Bulls in the weaker East have remained stuck in mediocrity for almost forever. A major reason for the Bulls being so mediocre is their owner, Jerry Reinsdorf.
I have to live with this team being owned by one of the greediest, selfish, and incompetent people in sports.
Jerry, do we seem like we're happy here, Jerry? Does it feel like this fan base is a happy fan?
Jerry Reinsdorf is pound for pound one of the worst owners in sports history. And he gets a pass routinely because guys like James Dolan.
You got people booing the Knicks profusely and begging for James Dolan to sell the team.
I'm a Knicks fan until the day I die, but Dolan's got to sell.
Well, I would be hard-pressed to find one single Knicks fan that doesn't wish to the Christmas wish list that he would sell this team.
Sell today.
Sell the team! You never sell a team? I'm not coming for games. What? You can't boo the owner of the team who has been a laughing stock.
Dolan is a problem because Dolan is petulant. He's a child. He gets them in the rules for the wrong reasons.
Ironically, sell the team.
In this season, it looks like the East might be the least competitive it has ever been. Even opening night only featured Western teams. With injuries to Halliburton and Tatum, the two prominent Eastern contenders are taking a gap year. That leaves us with the Knicks and Cavs, two of the top 3 seeds in the East last year, and also maybe the Magic and the Hawks. That's 3 to 4 teams that might be contending for the conference championship. Because the West is a whole different ballgame. Are hungry for more. The Nuggets pushed the Thunder to 7 games last playoffs. Now they've hurt the roster even further. The Rockets added Kevin Durant to a young defensive team that desperately needed shooting. The Warriors added Jimmy Butler last season, and they went on an undeniable run. They also added Steph Curry finally has some help. Then there's the Lakers, Clippers, Timberwolves, and even the San Antonio Spurs. The Wizards, and absolute. So here's the question everyone keeps asking. Should the NBA scrap conference-based playoffs and switch to a top 16 format?
Estamos en noviembre, ¿verdad? Estamos chiquitos.
Ajá.